All right, it is February 7th, like 1:40 in the afternoon. Um, Saturday, I'm just not really doing much today, so I figured I'd do two of these song descriptions like I do on Sundays, just to get it out of the way. I have the entire album done. I just haven't done everything to put into a Substack post. So I figured I'd do that now. Just things are going to get busier in my life, so I figured I'd get ahead of this and just put the whole album out there. You know, the album blueprint, not the actual album, but what I view as the album, like I do with all my albums. Where did we leave off last time? It was the Great Oat Milk War. It's all about that oat milk. That was more of a trippy, psychedelic song. And the more I looked at it over the last week, I really like the melodies of this one. Thoughts without fear. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Recall Paul Revere. So it could be a pretty mellow, relaxing song to start side two of this story. Yesterday, really, I just went to a local library to read some of my nursing book chapters. I'm trying to get ahead in that. And that's all I'm really doing the next couple days. I haven't started actually like working or clinical stuff. It's just really reading the books right now. But maybe over the next week it'll get more involved. I think the last thing I have to do for that, it's in coordination with Rowan College. Like you have to go get your fingerprints done again. I just did it like a week ago. I was going to volunteer with some church, so I had to do the fingerprints. Now I have to do it again. So it's kind of weird. It's the same company. You think they would just have my fingerprints on file, but whatever. They're paying for it, so I don't really care. And other than that, yeah, I had like a freak out yesterday. The chapter I was reading was all about like diseases that you could get from blood, hepatitis, of course, AIDS, HIV, and then they go into TB, airborne stuff like COVID, tuberculosis. I just said that. What's that? MRSA and C. difficile. I'm probably saying that wrong. That's a good name for a band, though. C. difficile. I kept thinking that's a really cool name for a band, some kind of weird like French punk band or something. Um, yeah, C. difficile. I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's a bad type of bacteria, just like MRSA. So, yeah, I had a freak out. Like, oh man, I got to get protected from all this stuff. I'm just gonna wear a mask constantly. So I don't know. I guess you get used to that for people who are nurses and stuff, doctors, physicians, assistants, physician, whatever, nurse practitioners. I guess you just get used to that stuff, and the more you worry about that stuff, the worse it's going to be. So you just kind of, just like COVID, in the beginning, everyone freaked out, and then people just kind of got used to dealing with that fear or whatever. So that's kind of where this last week has been. Went to classes, but it's really just reading the book right now. It's not a lot of clinical hands-on learning yet. I guess you get more into that next week and the weeks that follow. And this next song is kind of related to this. Ever since 2020, I kept being interested in shamanism, psychedelic drugs, different types of old ancient remedies, herbs, and stuff like that. It's interesting. Hamilton Morris, I always mention that dude. Some of it seems like it's just a scam to me. Some of it seems like it could be some medical benefits because all medicine started somewhere. So I'm very interested in shamanism. I'm very uneducated on it. I'm always reminded of one of my favorite shows was Reservation Dogs. on FX, which I wish I could buy it, but I can't find it anywhere to rewatch it. But I think Hulu has it. Reservation Dogs. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And it's Native American. It's from like the point of view of Native Americans, of when people came to take them off their land, they sent them to these like weird schools that were very strict, uh, and stuff like that to remove their language and heritage and all this stuff. They get pretty deep with that stuff, but it's also entertaining. It's not all just serious political stuff. It's just a group of kids that kind of live on a reservation. But the one young woman is like training to be a shaman or something. So the one episode, she's like hanging around the old elder guy, and it's pretty good. It's a really interesting show because I don't know anything about, like, very little about Native American culture. It's always kind of been interesting, but I don't really know anything about it. I'm not educated on any kind of historical, cultural stuff. Just what you see on the History Channel, really. That's all I really ever was exposed to in that Val Kilmer movie. There's a Val Kilmer movie where he's an FBI agent. Yeah, Thunder Heart. It's pretty good actually. It's not a bad movie, but he's like an FBI agent that's working on like a Indian reservation, a Native American reservation. Yeah, I saw it like over a decade ago, but I remember it being pretty interesting. So yeah, I don't know a lot about that stuff. Shamanism in general, South America, Mexico, anywhere. Every culture has a version of shamanism, no matter what your heritage is. Before pharmaceutical companies, there was uh, remedies that people just happened to come across, whether it was herbs and flowers and different kinds of plants and different kinds of mushrooms or whatever else. Every culture has some kind of a shamanism aspect to it. And it's just interesting because, the whole medicine man thing or woman. And that's kind of where I'm going with this song, I guess. This part of the story, Willie the vegan is kind of in exile because he doesn't know how to stop the all these hippies from killing each other over the oat milk. So he just escapes to the Amazon jungle, and he goes to the Amazon to kind of meditate. This is like his Luke Skywalker a moment when Luke Skywalker first is introduced to Yoda, and Yoda like teaches him all that stuff. That's kind of where I'm going with this. I'm probably just copying that exactly, but I don't think I have a character right now. Willie the vegan just goes to the Amazon rainforest, jungle, whatever, and he just tries to gain clarity or find out what his next step should be because he's just trying to get away from all the noise, I guess. And that's probably related to everyone, that you got to put your phone away from time to time because it's like your phone becomes too intrusive, invasive, whatever word you want to put there. It's too addicting, and it's like your daily thoughts become formed by stuff you see on your phone. So yeah, you should put your phone away at least one day a week. I don't do it. I wish I could do it. Like, you should take one day where you don't even look at your phone once, but yeah, I haven't done that in like 2 months. On any screen, like, you shouldn't have any, you should just have a day a week where you don't have all this meme information and emails and text messages from whatever, no advertisements, nothing. It clears your mind at least for one day. Like, Joe Rogan was telling a story that guy Jelly Roll, like, totally got rid of phones. Like, he got rid of his phone, and I don't even think he had a flip phone, and he just lived free from all that noise. I want to do that. I think it'd be an interesting way to exist, but it's so hard to do, man. I don't use my phone that much to communicate with people. I use my phone primarily to work on my art, primarily as a GPS device because it's just so convenient to drive places. Primarily as a, I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm doing this on my phone. I'm using the voice recorder on my phone. I wrote these lyrics on my phone. I thought of this album on my phone when I had this idea for Willie the Vegan. I was somewhere in a parking lot and I was just like, yeah, that's a cool name. Or maybe it happened like that. I don't even remember. But most of the songs on this album were written with my phone. If I didn't have my phone, I would have had to have some kind of notepad. So it's not like I couldn't do this. I can exist as an artist without technology, but it's a convenience that I don't need to have a pen and paper on me all the time, carry it around with me. All I need is my phone, and I have a voice recorder. I can record melodies I like that pop in my head, riffs or whatever. That's just how I've always done it since the early 2000s, or not the early 2000s, probably 2010. That's when I started doing that with flip phones. I would just be like, I could just record stuff onto my flip phone. And then I just continue doing that because I always have ideas floating around in my head. I just never really document them, and then they just disappear after a while. So that's the convenience of it. But I don't use my phone that much to text people or to email people unless it's like some work thing or something important. But like I just went to CVS to do some medical treatment. I'm like, man, this is so convenient. I don't have to call a doctor, go to a doctor's office. I just go to CVS. The same day I can get vaccines or some kind of if I need prescription. I don't have any prescriptions, but it's so easy and so convenient to do that stuff. I guess you still need a doctor sometimes, but it's very convenient. Like within an hour, you could just go to CVS and get whatever you need sometimes, or any of these pharmacies. So yeah, it's convenient, man, and it's addicting. I go into Wawa for the first time in like 6 years and get a coffee a couple of days ago. It was the first time I went into a Wawa because I just stopped going to Wawa. I stopped going anywhere. I went into a Wawa. It was like some weird Twilight Zone thing. But the first thing I did when I left was download the app so I could get a free coffee the next day. And yeah, it's good for Wawa's perspective. It's great because it'll keep me coming back. But the first thing you do is like, let me see if they have an app. I have to get that app. Let me get that app. And it's a different, I'm not saying anything new. This has been going on for like a decade, but maybe I've been out of the loop on this stuff. But I still feel like I'm too addicted to technology. As soon as I wake up, I'm not as bad as some people. Like I don't have to check my phone like automatically. As soon as I wake up in the morning, it's not like I'm reaching for my phone. Oh, what's the phone going to tell me today? Like, I'm not like that, but I've talked about the same thing a million times. The conflict between convenience and the disconnection you get through convenience, that it's less of a, it's almost like the phone is a crutch, I guess, if is that a politically correct word to use? The phone kind of erodes your ability to think for yourself. Like I'm looking at the library yesterday, looking at my nursing book, and I'm like, I don't know if that's true or false. Let me type it into Google, and Google will tell me the correct response. And I did it like at least 20 times. Some of the questions I didn't really know and I wasn't sure about. So you just put it into Google and whatever, they give you some guidance at least. So it's really weird how connected I've become to technology. Because before this, I wasn't using my phone that much at all. But I had tablets and I had other stuff. So it's the same thing. I was just addicted to my tablets that I used to have. In the tablets, I would record music, make videos on YouTube and other stuff. I just haven't really been able to do some of that stuff lately. But this is still generally the same thing that I was doing in the past. I'm just not taking videos of myself right now. I just think it's easier to do it like this, to upload it. You don't have to upload video files and deal with if you have to convert them to something else and all that stuff. But anyway, this song, it's called Shaman of the Amazon. It's kind of about when I started working at Amazon back in like early November. And then while I was working one day, I just had that melody in my head. The shaman of the Amazon, something like that. And it's another song that would be for background singers, like Willie the Vegan, that same type of effect. I would need some background singers to harmonize, to do these hooks and stuff. So this is a spoken word rap song. It's not as long as some of the other ones, but maybe verse two is kind of long. But it's getting more spiritual at this point. Shamanism. When I think of shamanism, I always have this image of some old elder. All the sick people go to this guy in a cave, and he or she, because shamans can be women or men, right? In most cultures, I believe. Again, I'm not very educated on this, but I believe a shaman, a healer, could be a woman or man. It's like the tribe will just select somebody from an early age. Like I think it started in Siberia, maybe. I did do some research a long time ago because I wanted to make like a screenplay story about shamanism, and then there's the whole Jim Morrison thing where he had that shaman type of interest, or he thought he was some shaman when a shaman spirit entered him when he was a kid or something. I don't know, man. There's a lot of crazy stuff. Everyone believes something different about this stuff, but it's definitely interesting. And I just want to make sure shaman can be woman or man in most cultures. Yeah, most cultures, a woman can be a shaman or a man. It's not like a gender based thing in tribes, I guess. But I'm sure there's different. Like I remember the Hamilton Morris. I always go back to that because I love that show. I watched it a couple times. He went to Mexico, I believe, and he met with this woman shaman, and her medicine. I think in addition to animal and plant products, she would use like singing and chanting, and that's how she would kind of heal people. And it sounds a little crazy to some people because I didn't grow up with somebody like that. I didn't go to a person when I was sick and they would chant around me, but that's also kind of like what church is. That's kind of what church is. They do chanting and stuff like that. There's also sound wave in Western medicine. People with certain disorders, kidney stones, they could go see a doctor, specialist, and people will use sound waves and stuff like that to kind of uh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Incinerate, eviscerate the bad thing inside the body. I can't think of the word. Disintegrate, whatever. It is an actual procedure. So I always thought it was cool. Different frequencies can have a healing effect, or the opposite. So yeah, I don't know a lot about this stuff. I got to read some books about shamanism because it is interesting to me, and I don't have that in my heritage. I didn't grow up with it. So I don't know anything. If you don't grow up with it, it's very difficult to speak intelligently about this stuff. People will just think you're some fake person. But I admit it. Yeah, I don't know anything about this stuff. Whether it's the use of psychedelics that they give to trauma patients or people in hospice care, they give people psychedelics to deal with the fact that they're dying or that they're going to die soon so they can make peace with that. Yeah, it sounds good, but I don't really know if it's really effective for all people. But it can't hurt, probably. If some drug can open up some consciousness level to make you come to terms that you're dying and that everyone dies, so it's not that big of a deal, then yeah, it would make people, all people, not just people in hospice care, but it would make all people live freer, just not worried about death all the time. Well, what am I going to do with all my stuff when I die? What am I going to do? What am I going to do with this or that when I die? Like, is it going to be painful? Like, yeah, people think about that stuff. Like, maybe it's a form of hypochondria, whatever the word is. When I don't know. So yeah, that's a cool element. I don't know what kind of psychedelics they give to people. If it's psilocybin, DMT, different kinds of therapies like that. But a tribal shaman. Yeah, I just picture exactly what I was saying. Like certain people have that in them, maybe to be a healer for a tribe, and people will come see them, and whatever happens after that, I don't know. I've never experienced anything like that. I never went to Peru, did the ayahuasca thing. I never did anything like that. I never did Rastafarian, whatever their rituals are with marijuana. I think peyote's legal in certain states in the Southwest if you use it for Native American ceremonies. So even peyote is a psychedelic, and people use it for some kind of ritual stuff. So yeah, I'm just saying myself personally. I've never been around that. So if you don't really experience something on that level, it's hard to really speak on it. I could read about it and watch videos, but if you don't experience it in the moment, it's a different type of reporting. I can't really report on whether it's a real thing, like because I'm pretty cynical about all religious stuff. I'm a very cynical person, I think, but I also have that feeling sometimes like there is some kind of shamanism that it's just a beautiful thing. People will pick somebody as a child. I think I read that about Siberian tribes, some Siberian people. They would pick people as a child, and the child would be trained to be a shaman or whatever. And the whole spirit world, it's just very interesting, regardless of your beliefs. Like you have to say that is very interesting stuff. But I think shamanism started in Siberia, but I could be wrong. It is definitely a part of Siberian culture. But did shamanism originate in Siberia? And I think it is. Shamanism originated in Siberia and is still a crucial part of indigenous cultures. This is from something in May of 2021. It is believed that people become shamans through inheritance or by being chosen by spirits, which I'm just reading stuff from Google. So, yeah, don't think I'm educated on this stuff. That's the first thing that popped up on Google that I'm reading. And that's the Jim Morrison thing. He said when he was a kid, right? Or am I just making that up? He believed some ancient Native American spirit became a part of his soul or something. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff, man. That's all I'm saying. But, yeah, I believe even the word shamanism is a Siberian word. Origin came from Siberia. But, yeah, again, I'm not educated at all on this stuff. I'm not trying to pretend I know what I'm talking about. But it's just a cool concept. That's what I'll say. So I'll protect myself from sounding like an idiot. It's a cool concept. It's been around like forever. You could probably even go back to druids and stuff like that. All that good stuff that nobody can explain how certain things were constructed in ancient times and all that stuff. I'm not going to go into chariots of the gods and that angle and stuff, but yeah, it's very interesting stuff, and I would like to learn more about it, but it's probably hard if you're not a part of that type of culture, unless you really live in that. Like you would have to live amongst those people and see it firsthand how people do things. The brain is a weird thing. Like if you live with a Siberian tribe for like a year or 2 years, like you'll become like connected to those people. You live with people for a long enough time, you do become like a part of that culture. But I guess that's all I'll say about this. Why did I come up with this song? I already had the idea even before Willie the Vegan became an album concept. I had this idea. I just thought it was a cool idea for a rap song, Shaman of the Amazon. Maybe because I was working there when I was working at an Amazon warehouse when I thought of this song, when I thought of the hook. So I guess that's everything I had to say about this one. I'll read verse 1. The voice of God strolling down the mountainside. Only this time there's no flock or tribe, just a man with the third eye shined to merge every blood type and split from the vine, unconscious and undeniable, unruly and unreliable, heart beating within an iron mask, the updated version to dedicate the path, dead in the dead end and die without replays. Some await your every waking moan to plan the most efficient shame. Before the meeting zoomed and this pain returns to their veins, with joints to refuse, stomachs to miscue, lungs to subdue, Dorothy on the roof. The virtual jungle speaks in volatile moods, subversive healers back on the loose. Try to add up the letters, but in the end it mainly depends on one's attitude. So yeah, you can call this just a spoken word track. That's verse 1. And most of these that I term rap songs would just be very mellow jazz music or something. Like that's what I kind of hear in between the more psychedelic melodies. These will be kind of like, I don't know, chances for the listener to relax even more, I guess. So there is a simple hook to this, but I'm thinking it's really just spoken word. It's not really sung or anything. Like a lot of stuff in this album, on this album. Food and Shelter, Casablanca, No Wire Diction, Another Stranger in Paradise. And that's all I have for the hook. I don't know if I'll add anything to that. I think I wrote that line. Well, Stranger in Paradise is kind of a common thing. It's not a new phrase that I just devised. Yeah, there's a movie I watched. Jim Jarmusch. I think he's pretty famous, but I don't know a lot about him. But it was a 1984 movie, black and white. I think it's about immigrants from like Russia or something. I don't know. I watched it a couple years ago. Yeah, it's like some immigrant in New York City, and then like his sister or cousin, they come to visit, and then they take a road trip to like Florida, and they lose all their money gambling, and and then I don't know. It's a pretty cool movie though. It's about the whole when people come to America and try to fit into the culture and learn how things work in America. It's almost like I think I watched that movie, Strangers in Paradise. I believe I watched this movie after I saw the movie Strozek, which is even more crazy about immigration to America. It's a crazy movie. It's a great movie. I think it's Herzog. This is a Jim Jarmusch, a new American film, black and white. But it's really beautiful, cinematic wise. It's just beautiful. It's a movie I would have to watch again because there's a lot. It's very slow paced, arty movie, so be prepared if you want to watch that. It's very, very slow. A lot of it is just dialogue, and I believe maybe it was subtitles. I don't even remember, man. It might have been subtitles. I forget where the people came from, but yeah, that's probably what I was thinking of. I think I believe that's yeah. Even this on Reddit, it's one of the funniest, most entertaining movies ever made, and nothing happens. It's very minimalistic. Like if you like stuff like that, you'll love this. All right, they're not Russian. They're Hungarian immigrants, and they just kind of get into weird situation with gambling and stuff like that. But it's a cool movie. I think that's where I why I thought of using that line in the hook is if I ever or moving to the Amazon, whether it's me or somebody else. Imagine moving to like Peru and doing that, living with like a tribe in the jungle. Like you're gonna feel so out of place. But maybe that's needed sometimes. People take retreats like that, not for a year or two, but people take retreats and leave all their devices away. No cable, no radio, no television, no politics, no cell phone. And people will take a week and go on a retreat and just get away from all that stuff. I think that is like a big, I won't say it's a big business, but a lot of people do that just to get away from all the noise because it's information overload, which is a song that is the next song. Speaking of that, yeah, the next song after this is actually called Song 8, Return of the Information Overload. Like, and yeah, you don't want to be completely out of the know, but it's like if you watch the news, it's only going to show you all the stuff to be afraid of, most of the time at least. And it's just like, how much of that can you really stomach before you just want to hide away in some cave and eat peyote all day? So yeah, it's a balancing act, I guess. But yeah, I had a big, well, not a big. When I left the library yesterday, I had like a mini therapy session for like 20 minutes with myself, just speaking all my thoughts out. And I'm like, even these themes I'm talking about, I've talked about for the last like 2, 3 years. So I don't have any new ideas. This is just a new way to incorporate these ideas into a story. But I've been talking about these issues that I have and that a lot of people have for a long time. And it's such a weird because I'm constantly contradicting myself, I feel like. But I try to explain it like with Facebook, I can't get on Facebook. I'm banned from Facebook for whatever reason. I haven't been on it in 15 years, but they said I violated some policy, which they don't tell me what I could have done since I wasn't even on there. But then also, I'm like, I hate Facebook. I don't even want to be on there. So it's like, what am I even angry about? This happened with Instagram. I spent like 2 days creating an Instagram account with all my art and stuff, and then they kicked me off for no reason. I was like, what the hell, man? Instagram, what's the deal, man? And then they let me back on because they know I didn't do anything. But I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even want to be on here anymore. So I like canceled it. And then like a couple months later, I was like, let me go back on. So it's weird. It's a weird kind of addiction where you don't even know why you're on it. You know, it's just filled with so much nonsense and such a waste of time. That's why I got off Facebook 15 years ago. I was like, it's such a waste of brain power to be on there. It's just people playing games politically, socially. It's a waste of time. But also, I want to advertise stuff, and Facebook is pretty good for that. So it's you see that there's a contradiction, but it's whatever people use it for, really. Anyway, yeah, that's basically. I had like a 20-minute talk with myself yesterday, and I'm like, I don't have any new thoughts, and I probably never did. I said that before. Nobody really has original thoughts. You're just rehashing old ideas from even 1,000 years ago. You're just doing it in different ways with different technology, but the paradigm kind of stays the same. Like that's the most sad part of humanity. The same paradigm kind of stays the same through the generations. It just happens to evolve based on how the technology is, I guess. But that whole tribalism thing, yeah, it changes. I'm not going to say it's like it was in medieval times, but there is still that element of tribalism that is just ingrained in all human beings, I guess. And I guess that's kind of where this song goes in the second verse. But to be honest, yeah, I'm just trying to write interesting phrases at this point that would sound cool as spoken word on over top, overlapping, whatever, like some jazzy instrumentals, and that's how the this album would form, I guess. Maybe more space jazz or trippy jazz or free jazz, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I would just rely on people to come up with the music. I always think of well, right now I'm thinking of Lee Scratch Perry, one of his last albums when he had like the universe according to Lee Scratch Perry, right? Wasn't that what it was called? It was from maybe 2021. Lee Scratch Perry's Guide to the Universe from 2021 with New Age Doom. And it's like jazz, stoner rock, I guess they call it. Whatever you want to call it, man. Drone, jazz, or stoner rock. But I love that album. I gave it a perfect score. And that's kind of what I'm going with. Even the David Bowie Black Star thing. I just like that type of trippy jazz stuff because it is like psychedelic almost. The Alice Coltrane stuff and who's the other guy? Pharoah Sanders, I'm thinking of. I still haven't gotten into too much of the Sun Ra. I was supposed to go through his entire discography, but I haven't done that. I went through a couple albums. It was pretty cool. But his whole thing is about alien stuff, so that fits this. Not to spoil stuff, but it fits this album pretty good. The whole alien storyline with Sun Ra and all the weird stuff that he was able to create. All right, so here's verse 2. It's a little bit longer than the other one. Cavemen ring the closing bell for those willing to breed, seeking the perfect day in acid rain with wounds betrayed and Caesar refurbished. The stream is tired, played out, and left with nothing to lose. Might find peace within those frostbitten wrists to survive or exist or head straight towards that ultimate risk of opening one's already open book while digital damsels strangle the code source. More underground noise from the citizen stranger, from the alien bluffed on an existentially panicked wager for a narrowly bearable savior, like God and Satan toying with Job once more. Maybe find more promise in a career overboard, chum of the chump for the sharks to chomp and refund every last spark of one's monetized heart. Is this what failure demands or what success disavows before the conspiracy hums? Let the psychopaths take the lead as the tortoise seals the need. Nothing left to misrepresent and misprints when the fire's already lit. Better take the hit and run straight towards the blitz to earn the scarecrow's respect. Now the jungle underfed, the healers cashing out like spiritual free agents. It's not so much that the game is rigged, it's more the question of why life gets exploited like a game at all by actors on the news and those all too familiar pawns. Creating a reality is harder when the applause lights are turned off. Still, many try to achieve that self sustainability, but definitely return to that wickedly stable hickory wind when the stomach taps out to those off gridded sins. Know the trip before your order's up. Starts on that hill of paranoia. I just wanted to say it like that. I just thought it sounded more interesting. Like I think I did that with another word earlier. Instead of saying paranoia, starts on that hill of paranoia. I just, for some reason, I made a note to say it like that. Maybe it sounds better. Know the trip before your order's up. Starts on that hill of paranoia. Yeah, it kind of rhymes like that. And yeah, verse two is kind of longer than the first one, and I feel like the music will get more aggressive as you get towards the end of it. And there's an outro section to this song, which was the origin of this entire idea. Um, while I was working at Amazon, when I was on a break, I recorded like a short melody so I wouldn't forget it. And it's something like that. Like it's what the outro is now. But now I hear it with the background singers, just like I always hear female vocalists, like almost like the Motown doo-wop background singers. I just love that stuff. The harmonies and stuff like that are just it's so cool. Stain the shaman, the shaman, the shaman of the Amazon. Prayed the shaman, the shaman, the shaman of the Amazon. Shame the shaman, the shaman, the shaman of the Amazon. Raise the shaman, the shaman, the shaman of the Amazon. It would be something like that. Like I usually think of better melodies later, but that's kind of what it is now. And yeah, I just had the vision of what's that guy? What's that guy's name? He's like an old soul singer. Man, he's very famous. I can't even think of his name though right now. I can't think of his name. Yeah, it's gonna bug me because he's a very, very famous guy. I don't know. I just have a brain fart, but I can't waste time thinking of it now. Maybe I'll think of it later, and then I'll share some songs that I'm thinking of. But I did watch a documentary with this person who I can't think of his name. It's not Curtis Mayfield. I actually just listened to a podcast about Curtis Mayfield. I never knew the tragedy with him. He was giving a concert and lights fell on him and like broke his spinal cord and he was paralyzed from that. Never knew that happened to him. I just found that out this morning that that was his tragic story. And he still recorded an album after that. He was like paralyzed. He's still recording an album, laying on his back, singing the best he could or whatever. So I made a note to listen to that to see how it sounded. That's a crazy story I never knew about. I like Curtis Mayfield a good bit. I just never knew that tragic story about his life. Yeah, I just can't think of this guy's name. It's kind of frustrating because it is somebody very famous. Um, but anyway, that's how this song, the blueprint goes. I'll think of this later, and maybe I'll make another playlist of a few songs that I mentioned and that relate to this song. Um, yeah, that's probably where I'm going to go because I usually like to do that. I like to give thanks, give credit to people that led me to this type of music, whether it's funk or soul, rap songs, spoken word stuff. And that's kind of what I'll do later with this one. But yeah, there's so many famous. I just Googled who are some of the most famous soul singers, and yeah, you're gonna get like 100 different people because there's so many people in that genre. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to find this guy's name right now. But I can't believe I can't think of his name. It's really gonna bug me. Anyway, the reason I'm trying to think of this guy because there's a documentary about him, and it's it shows him in the studio instructing the background singers how to hit the different harmonies and do stuff like that. And it just seemed very interesting to me how they do that. See, I don't think I could see myself doing that, but I would just rely on people to just. I'm more on that Pink Floyd type of atmosphere where it's like they just tell the singer, do whatever you want to do. And they got the great gig in the sky. I always go back to that example. But that's just cool to me, just improvising stuff. All right, I'm really going to try to find this guy. Famous male soul singers who had a documentary about gospel music. Yeah, okay, Al Green. How did I not think of Al Green's name? So there's a documentary I saw on not Hulu, but that other one. There's another type of free streaming platform that was advertised last Super Bowl that you could download this free streaming site and watch the Super Bowl for free. And it was a cool site. It had tons of music documentaries. So yeah, the name I couldn't think of was Al Green. I just couldn't think of his name. But he goes into it's actually on YouTube too. The Gospel According to Al Green, and he was a soul guy, funk dude, Motown, just a genius singer, and then he got into gospel music, and that's kind of where the documentary goes into. But they show him in the studio working with background singers, and he's such a cool dude. And he's trying to say what note to hit, so he's instructing the background singers. It's really cool. If you want to watch a good music documentary, it's about Al Green. I think it's just called The Gospel According to Al Green. And I'll link that since that's maybe the only inspiration I could give for this song, maybe. But yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. His name was just escaping my brain for some reason. So yeah, they list him as an R&B singer, but I always think of Al Green as like a soul guy. But I guess he just did every type of music. But it's pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good documentary because later in his life he just devoted. I don't know if he's still doing it. He was devoted to gospel music. So it's pretty cool how people do that. It's not unusual. Sam Cooke, even Marvin Gaye probably did like gospel at some point. Aretha Franklin stuff. So I guess that's a yeah. Apologies. He's still probably doing stuff. The reason I think of soul songs is because "Let's Stay Together." That's like I don't know. I just think of it like a soul song. I guess. Because I don't know that many Al Green's albums or songs really, but he's a very famous dude, and he is like a reverend. So yeah, he got real into gospel music. And if you want to watch a good documentary, that's pretty good. And yeah, I think he still goes on tour. Dude's probably like in his 80s. So yeah, respect to that guy. From 1981 to 89, Al Green recorded a bunch of gospel albums. So I think he still does stuff, but I don't know. I'm just Googling stuff now, so I really don't know. I just remember the documentary. It's definitely worth a watch. But that's basically everything I have for this song. It's a spoken word rap song. Some of the themes involved I spoke about. It's mostly just about I don't know, the mysterious nature of shamanism, because a lot of people didn't grow up with that unless you grew up in Peru or in a more tribal environment off the grid somewhere. I don't know. That's what my brain tells me. Like, I don't know anyone who grew up with that type of culture, that type of heritage. So, yeah, I'm completely uneducated on this stuff. The little bit of research I've done through my life, I probably forget anyway. So, it's something I have to follow up on because it is. How could you not be curious about that stuff? And yeah, the quote that I ended this song is from Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine was somebody I really didn't pay attention to until I read The Age of Reason, because it's a pretty ballsy book he wrote, kind of criticizing religion, organized religion, but it's not like he was an atheist. He was just against some of the politics and the tribal mentality and the controlling nature of organized religion, stuff like that. So Thomas Paine, yeah, of course, he's the common sense dude. He wrote Common Sense. He was one of the Revolutionary War thinkers, or whatever you want to call it, philosophers. And his quote, and I believe, if you never read The Age of Reason yet, it is very critical of Christianity. It's very critical of the Bible. But it's also, if you really read it, it's very hopeful about just spirituality in general. So it's an interesting work of philosophy. And I think he got kind of in trouble for it. Because back then, yeah, it's probably pretty frowned upon to be writing stuff like that. But I picked a quote from that book that kind of explains where I'm going with. Because even people who don't have an organized religion and don't go to church and don't do like that stuff, it doesn't mean that they're atheist or whatever. And not that there's even anything wrong with that. But I think people get that impression a lot. And there's a difference between agnostic and a deist, which I even forget. Agnostic and deist, what is the difference? I don't even know how to explain that. A theist believes in existence of at least one God. Agnostic holds the belief that the existence of God is unknown or unknowable. So it's kind of like that neutral position. So it's kind of different, but that's a theist. What's a deist? See, I don't even know these terms. I probably knew these at some point in my life. A deist is someone who believes in the existence of a supreme God based on reason, logic, and observance of nature, rather than divine revelation or organized religion. So I guess that would fit as a form of someone who's agnostic, I guess. But whatever. I'm not sure what Thomas Paine considered himself, but I think it was a deist or agnostic, one of those two. Yeah, Thomas Paine was a prominent deist, believing in a single God, known through reason and nature, but he rejected organized religion, the divinity of Jesus, and miracles. And he wrote this in his controversial book, The Age of Reason. I didn't read that till I was probably in my 20s, I think. But it's a pretty good book. Like, he kind of gives like really critical he's very critical of the Old Testament. Some of the some of the stories in there, but I don't remember exactly. But he goes into the New Testament as well, and he talks about inconsistencies, hypocritical stuff. It's a typical overview of dissecting a book like the Bible, which is a very, you can either take it figuratively or literally. So if people read the Bible just as a code of conduct and they don't take it word for word, then you really don't have anything. it it's kind of what he was talking about, because Thomas Paine, I guess he was talking to people who take every word literally, and that's back in the 1700s or whatever, whenever he did that. But yeah, it's not a bad book. I haven't read it in probably 10 plus years. But yeah, it's one of those books I think was introduced probably in one of the philosophy classes I took. But yeah, check it out. If I've spoke about it before. Yeah, and so he wrote that, yeah, in the late 1700s up until 1807. So it was after the American Revolution, but not too far after. But yeah, that issue of deism, like it's an interesting debate between any organized religion. And all right, I'm speaking for too long, but this is the majority of the thoughts I have relating to this song, and the lyrics I kind of scribbled together. And yeah, I hope you can understand a little bit where I'm coming from with the ideas and some of the themes I came up with. This is probably the most um, spiritually intense song on the album, I guess. It's also between, like, because you could look at shamanism, that is a form of organized religion. It might not be like considered that in some regions of the world, but it is a form of organized religion. There's rituals, there's probably sacraments and stuff like that. It's a form of organized religion. It's just a different type of spiritual reality or spiritual tradition passed down from every generation. But yeah, it's a cool. Maybe it's more interesting to me because it is foreign, and I don't know anything really. Is shamanism organized religion? According to Google, everything I search is just according to Google. Shamanism is not a formalized system of beliefs. It is a group of activities and experiences shared by cultures around the world. So, but again, everyone's going to be different depending on your tribal heritage and stuff. But yeah, there are elements of it. There's elements of shamanism in Christianity, in Judaism, and I'm sure in Islam too, because everything kind of evolves from something. But like, I was thinking of the angel of death story. You learn that angel of death story when you're like 5 years old, and you're like, holy, that's like the creepiest story you could ever teach a child. Angel of death story origin. I bet you it came from some kind of myth. Yeah, Azrael is the canonical. I don't know how to say that word. Angel of death in Islam, and appears in the apocalyptic text of Peter. So yeah, like every religion probably has that story in there about the angel of death story. But yeah, that's straight up heavy metal, man. Like, I remember I would talk about Creeping Death, the Metallica song. Like, they kind of sing about that. But yeah, that's the creepiest story, I think. But there must be some kind of because I feel like every story is a continuation of some other myth and some other kind of heritage, but I'm talking for too long. But that was one of the things I remember thinking of as a kid. Like that's definitely the creepiest thing you learn in whatever Catholic school about the angel of death. But that's probably why I like that Creeping Death by Metallica so much, because it's kind of about that. Like it's a type of story that fits perfectly into heavy metal because it's just that creepy occult sensation. Yeah, Creeping Death by Metallica was written from the perspective of the angel of death and describes the 10th plague of Egypt. So yeah, that's kind of what this song relates to. Just um, the merging of different religious beliefs and stories like that. Because I'm sure there's stories like that, or even creepier than that, in a lot of different tribes. But yeah, all right, that's a basic outline of this song. It's probably the most spiritual in terms of the lyrics and the and the plot of this, because Willie the vegan is going to the Amazon jungle to kind of commune with the spirits and find out what the hell to do next or whatever. So I don't know what the animation would be like. Maybe he just finds some ancient shaman in the woods or in the jungle, and they find out um, find some kind of enlightenment to continue his journey or whatever. But all right, that's basically everything I have to say about this one. I probably spoke for way too long.